At 3 years old, we went into Malaysia. Now they drug us back out into South China Sea, left for dead. My mother said we drifted. A huge typhoon came through. We were saved by a Russian supply boat. You know, the warrior path is really difficult because you're walking that fine line. You are doing God's work, you know, because I am a warrior of God.
I'm a big fan of consistently pushing myself in a lot of different dynamics. Like, I want to push myself in health. I want to push myself when I hunt. I want to push myself with friendships. I want to push myself in business.
So let's just say I'm in a gunfight overseas and I sense fear in me. They're shooting rounds at me, right? And then the thought of death comes across your mind. Do you marinate on that thought or do you suppress that thought?
What's going on, everyone? I am here in Colorado Springs with the one and only Tu. Thank you so much.
Hi, guys.
For having me at your home. This is an amazing treat. And we have a great group of guys here with us, which is a blessing. And it's surreal, you know, kind of sitting here because I've been following you for a long time. My son knows everything about you. And he was very excited to hear that I was coming here. Can't wait to meet you at some point. But I'm just super grateful. So thank you.
Thank you.
So, you know, I was sitting here thinking before we started this podcast, a lot of people kind of tell the story and flow of what they've been through, things they've overcome. And I think for me in the audience, I think it would be amazing for us just to start off with, who is Tu today?
Well, definitely I'm a follower of Christ today. Definitely that, but warrior, teacher, you know, philosopher, husband, entrepreneur, and when I say I'm a follower of Christ, is, you know, 2 years ago, you know, Jesus saved me and, you know, kind of showed me the errors in my ways because, you know, at a certain point, you know, I had to be that guy. You know, you interview a lot of special operations veterans, like you have to be that monster at a certain point. But after the war, I didn't want to be that anymore. And that was a 10-year process. So who you're looking at today, you know, it was definitely a 10-year process to get here.
Which is interesting because people think it can happen overnight. And they're just like, why can't I change? Why am I having so many problems adapting? And I think a lot of it is, you know, putting together a plan and sticking to that plan of how you're going to change. But I mean, you were in the military for how many years?
23.
So it took you 10 years to get to where you are now. You know, you walk a mile in the woods, you got to walk a mile out. Mm-hmm. I mean, you did pretty well.
Thank you.
And I mean, I can't imagine the depth of transition and, you know, all those, because I am a huge fan of seeing a special forces man come out of the military and then end up with this beautiful success and all these beautiful things, right? And that accomplishment was really hard, and so is all the things that you're doing today. Did you ever think that it was going to be like this?
No. It's you know, they say a journey of 1,000 miles began with a single step. You know, but what is that first step? Because the thing is, you know, like you just said, like we can come up with a plan. Like I can come up with a plan or who I want to be in the next 5 years. I can come up with a plan. But how can you come up with a plan unless you know who you are? You know, at a certain point, I didn't know who I was. I was good at one thing, you know, war. I was really good at that. I dedicated 15 years to it and 23 years in military service. Majority was special operations. And at the height of the war, so the amount of experience, you know, that you get. So like when I got out, that's the one thing I knew. So what are you going to do now? Like, because unless you're going to be some kind of mercenary or you work in like some kind of contracting job in some kind of CIA position, like that was my future.
Do you feel like you could have accomplished what you have now on a personal level with still being in the military, even if it was
No,
no?
no, it was a total transformation.
Uh-huh.
I had to die to that older self.
Uh-huh. Just because you're just so turned on it in that position, it would be too difficult to find that peace, to find God.
I feel like, majority of us, all of us, we live in this state of survival for a very long time. Like you live in a state of survival majority of your life, like surviving for what your parents taught you or what they gave you. Like, my parents taught me, like, you should make a lot of money. You should be successful, but they couldn't define what that success is besides a doctor, a lawyer, like the typical
Mm.
answers. So the thing is, like, when you got to identify what that is, that success. When I got out of the military, it was like a total transformation from being successful in the military at warcraft and now being something completely different, which for me, I didn't know what to do.
The fear of the unknown kicks in, I'm sure too, when you're sitting there. Like, so I'm a big fan of consistently pushing myself in a lot of different dynamics. Like I want to push myself in health. I want to push myself when I hunt. I want to push myself with friendships. I want to push myself in business. But when you're in that transition and you're battling those demons, and then you're also trying to figure things out, like it's a roadblock, right? And I do interview quite a lot of guys in the community, and I think it really all starts with just kind of not trying to force anything, just trying to get in a position to where you can kind of understand. And coming to the civilian community after that, it's a totally different game, right? Nobody cares. It's a start over process. I talk about it with Big Ray all the time, and I said, when you were in the military, I was in business, and I was in business 10 years before you got out of the military. How do you expect just to get out of the military? It would be like the same thing. What am I going to do? Jump into being in the SF community? It doesn't work that way. So yeah, I think it's beautiful how you really like mapped out your goals and conquered them.
Well, I was looking at the landscape. So, for me, if I have a question on like, okay, purpose, like who do you want to be? And that purpose changes through the evolution of your life, right? Like, a purpose when you're a teenager was to graduate from high school, right? A purpose as a young 20-year-old is either finish college or, get a good paying job. Like, what is your purpose? So when you get out of, 23 years in the military and you saw the worst in the world, and not to even say, I didn't even understand childhood trauma
Yeah, we were talking
back
about that
then,
before. I'm excited to talk about it.
or hormone changes as you age. Like I heard about it, but I wasn't educated on it. Definitely wasn't. Right? It changes your physiology, the mental game, the lack of being present. Through meditation. Like, why is even meditation important? So when I got out, it was understanding that, okay, I lived this certain lifestyle and that came with training, right? The special forces came with training. So if I wish to live a life of service to God through my business, of being an entrepreneur, being a teacher, a warrior, like if I wish to serve that, then I have to train, right? I have to train that way because I feel like our connection with God is through a frequency, it's through sacrifice, it's through faith, commitment,
Change.
So,
Yeah.
so when I got out of the military, I had to make that change. Otherwise I would have.
What was your first step? What was the first? Do you remember the first thing that you did?
I did. I remember the first thing I did was at that point of my life, my thoughts, I couldn't control it. The thoughts would play out in my mind all the time, and it's usually negative.
Like deep negative thoughts that you couldn't control.
Just negative. Just negative.
Everything was negative.
Yeah, like the sun again. It's already another day, kind of deal. Like, so when I say that, and we laugh because we say it, like another day. I can't wait till this day to be over. How many times, like we say it generally in
In a setting.
a setting,
Yeah.
like I can't wait till this day to be over. Like I was living in that negativity. I was living in that. And I contribute to the war. I remember that. Like a lot of my thoughts were regrets from war, seeing things, and then but also like why do I care about what people think of me so much, or like things started to surface. Why would I, literally, it bothers me when this guy doesn't text me back on time. Right. So I realized that my emotions started taking over my life and my thoughts was way overpopulated. They did a study where a normal human being generates about 60,000 thoughts a day. 60,000 and that's
Well, I'm not normal, so I probably double that.
100%.
Just kidding.
And you're doubling that with social media. Like, think about all the kids nowadays that's just flicking through reels over and over through, and then they're feeding that endorphin, right? They're feeding that chemical release. But in time, what happens?
They look at that and they're like, well, why am I not like that person on there?
Okay, but in time, what happens too is that they have
Brainwashed.
well, their attention span is not there anymore.
Oh, that's a good point.
I can't even hold a conversation with you because my attention span is flicking of a screen, right? So where I'm going with that is like, what if I was to say like, and this is in general to the whole public when it comes to social media and the news and everything that we're facing nowadays, if that's in your mind all the time, what's that do to your nervous system?
Yeah.
If you're seeing the bombing in Iran, you're seeing the threat rise in America, you're seeing after shooters, you're seeing all this stuff that the news throws at us, the human trafficking, like stuff that we can't even change. Now you're putting into your brain. So what's going to happen to your nervous system?
All the negative thoughts come through, and it's going to.
So we're programming our bodies, right?
Exactly.
So what if I say to you, you can program the other way? So, okay, so when you get up in the morning, a typical American, when I say not you, because you're a little bit more elite, but when a typical,
not as elite as you, but I'm elite. At least I got a good compliment out of it.
Yeah, because the thing is this: a normal American gets up. What's he do?
He rushes out of the house.
No, he doesn't. He checks his phone.
Oh.
The first thing he does is check his phone, and if he can lay there for more than 15 minutes, he's probably flicking through some social media.
Yeah.
Right, some Facebook or Instagram. He's that's what he's doing. So what are you doing already? You're injecting other people's thoughts, media, news, which the media thrives on what? Negativity. Right? So now you're putting that into your morning. Your first thoughts of that day, it's now somebody else's thoughts. It's coming from social media. What if I say to you, hey, don't even touch that phone? In fact, what time you usually get up in the morning?
Between like 4:45 and 5:30.
See, that's why I say you're kind of elite, right? So a normal person, let's just say normal, for the sake of this conversation, a normal person gets up around 7. Let's just say 7. And I say that's early for a normal person, but let's just say 7. If within your 24-hour day, what's important to you? Okay, so if you tell me, okay, well, I want to be smarter, I want to start my own business. So within that 24-hour day, what are you doing to start that own business? Like, okay, so back to when I was out of the military. I'm out of the military. I have no purpose. I just did 23 years of service. Majority of it's war. Majority of it was special operations. I was a drug addict too. I was addicted to painkillers, right? Barely holding my marriage together.
This is right when you got out?
right when I got out. So then when I got out, I realized that I don't want to be this guy. Okay.
Did you have drug problems while you were in the military?
Yeah, towards the end.
How about prior to going in?
No. No, I took an IED and roadside bomb in 2005. They prescribed me Oxycontin and game over, because anybody who knows like painkillers, what works in one session won't work on the next. You always got to up your dose, right, to mask that pain. Well, multiply a whole career in spec ops, like you're always in pain.
How many years were you on it for?
Special operations.
No, the painkillers.
Since 2005.
Oof.
On and off. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So actually, one of the first things I did when I got out was I detoxed my body. So they, I don't know, you ever seen where they push water up inside of you and kind of flushes you out? I did that. But getting back to like purpose, like, okay, so let's just say you've been to 27 countries, you liberated the oppressed, you came from the oppressed, you liberated the oppressed. So when I say that, there's a emotional tie, right? Because I was born in Vietnam, was born in war, escaped genocide. I was left for dead on a wooden fishing boat. Like that ties to your nervous system. Think about every action hero, story. He had to go through some traumatic experience to be this hero, this superhero, right? Whatever. And that's anybody's life. Like you have to go through this transformation. And for me, it was a lot, what I saw. And I was injured and I was addicted to drugs. I had no faith back then. Like I believe in God. There's a God, but I didn't give a fuck. I didn't care, because I was fighting a war, and I saw the worst in the world, and the stuff that I had to deal with as a child, survival. So we live in that state of survival. So when's that survival change? Like when survival changed, like it has to change through what? Struggle.
And I think it changes too when you face it head on, and you really take the time to. I've told people my entire life story. They're like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you went through all that," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm grateful. I have a lot of gratitude for the pain I've been through,
because it made you who you are."
Yeah, and I think, look at everyone who's here right now. We all have a very common theme. Our life was never really easy until. I call my life pretty easy now compared to what I've been through, right? But the group of men that are surrounding me are men that have been through amazing things. I call them amazing things because they made me who I am today. But we all have a different story. But it's all based. Almost everybody has that childhood trauma, transition into midlife trauma, and then trying to overcome as much as it as you possibly can.
And not everybody can overcome it, right? And tell you the truth, I don't think you can overcome it. So that's the thing, is like there was a certain point when I got into the healing portion of my journey, I went down the spiritual healing, right? So spiritual healing, working with shamans, doctors, psychedelics, in ceremony. So these ancient ceremonies, these natives have used it to heal people before. So that led me around, the world, sitting with different plants and their wisdom, and why I say the wisdom is, plants were here before us, humans. And they have a compassionate way of teaching us, So I would tell you, some of the plants I sat with were very compassionate teachers, and they taught me how to move to my still point, which is in meditation. Is very important to move to the still point, because if you're able to move to a still point and be present, then you can release. So on the book Letting Go by Dr. David Hawkins, he talks about how a normal Westerner, how we hold on to trauma. Literally, we hold on to it, right? And the way that we do it is, okay, so let's say something traumatic happened in your life. It don't matter what age. Something traumatic happened in your life, and a lot of times, if you look in the wild, if some kind of survival situation happened to a wild animal, you'll see them like shake it off after that's over. Well, we don't, as human beings, we actually hold on to our trauma. And emotions are to be felt, literally. So let's just say I'm in a gunfight overseas and I sense fear in me because they're shooting rounds at me, right? And then the thought of death comes across your mind. Do you marinate on that thought or do you suppress that thought? So we're trained to suppress the thought. So in time, what happens is that emotion gets trapped into your lower abdominal region, right? So in the art of meditation, you go into a very elongated breathing process to hit your lower abdominal to move that trauma, right? So for me, when I started understanding that, I was able to release a lot of my traumas. Mm-hmm. And with sitting with psychedelics, because certain psychedelics, it allows you to slow down your nervous system enough. Or it allows the plant access, it basically chokes off blood circulation to certain portions of your brain to force blood to flow into a portion of your brain that usually doesn't get that traffic. Yeah. So that's where your trauma was at. So you're going to relive that trauma. When I say relive it is, for me, reliving some of that trauma was you'll feel that emotion times 10. So a fear of maybe a 3-year-old times 10. You know, so when I say 3-year-old, so a 3-year-old on a boat, I'm on a boat, people are dying, bodies are being thrown overboard, you're floating in the South China Sea, and you don't know if you're going to die or be rescued. That was traumatic for me, right? So it brought me back to that. I felt the fear of a 3-year-old. Oh, wow. And with the intellect of adulthood and my training of deep meditative breathing, which is a very Hindu type of breathing, the belly roll, I can get into that trauma and release that emotion. It just needs to be felt. That's it. And you have to be present.
I think we're going to do that tomorrow morning.
Yeah, because you have to be present.
At 3:30.
Why 3:30?
You tell us. You told us you told us last night.
Okay, so
because 4:00.
3 to 6, right? 3 to 6 is my meditation prayer. Jesus, he went to go talk to the Father early in the morning, and it was during 3 to 6 o'clock, and that in the Bible is called the fourth watch. That's the fourth watch is they call it the witching hour, when the spirits are really active, right? So imagine you waking up knowing that the spirits are active on the fourth watch, and your intention is to meet God. King David did it. David and Goliath, King David did it. He wrote Psalms on it where he chased God early in the morning. He talks about it. Mm-hmm. So as a warrior, I resonate with King David because King David was a warrior his whole life. So I take that practice and I put it into my morning ritual at 3 o'clock in the morning, which is the fourth watch. So imagine you get up in the morning, no coffee, no stimulants, okay? You're on E because you fasted, right? I stopped eating around 6 o'clock, right? So I'm already at a 10-hour fast at that point. Mm-hmm. So I get up in the morning, no carbs, no insulin level spikes. You're at the most grounded level you can be. So when you get up in the morning, what do you sense first? So an average person, okay, when they get up in the morning, they get hit by emotions. Ask a normal person, like, okay, what do you deal with in the morning? Well, I deal with anxieties. I get stressed out during the day, right? Um, think about being an entrepreneur. You're constantly worrying. I know my wife. She has anxiety sometimes because she's entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm. She sure is.
Right?
Yeah, she is.
She is. And this is the thing is, let's say you wake up in the morning, you have anxieties. I can tell you, I have a method of letting that go before the day starts.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you get up in the morning, you feel depressed. I have a method of letting that go because emotions just need to be felt and moved through your body.
I think people are scared of that.
Well, they don't know. Like, okay, so a lot of people are scared to sit with their thoughts, yes, but also like, okay, so let's just say you sit in there and you sit with your thoughts. Are you present? No, you're in your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily.
Right.
No.
So let's just say if you come in, right, and you're like, "Tu, I'm sitting in my thoughts," right? I'm like, "Oh, okay. So I want you to sit here next to me, and I want you to breathe in your nose and out your mouth. Elongate that breathing, right, into a push. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
A push. So let's say you go in your nose and out your mouth, and then let's say you have anxieties. You feel it. Now I want you to push right into that emotion.
Mm.
So you feel the anxieties. It's usually around right here.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine when you inhale and you exhale and you put your focus right here and you're pushing that air right in here. So what it's doing is getting into the lower abdominal region where that trauma, that stress is stored.
Yeah, whenever. So some of the biggest things that I learned early on when I was trying to find like my morning groove, like my morning routine, like that thing that really made me the best person I could be that day, and it's always evolving. Like about like tomorrow, I have a funny feeling I might be getting up earlier in the morning because I can see what it does what it does for you,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how I gauge a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
I see my friends, people I care about that have overcome big things, and I want to know what they did.
Okay, so we're both businessmen.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you're about to take an important call, right? A normal person would just, okay, that's the time of the meeting, I'll get on the call. See, for me, I backed that off 15 minutes. See, so the meeting's at 3, I backed that off 15 minutes and I sit in silence. First, I tell God what I want, like I ask for his grace, right? And whatever comes out of this conversation is truly for him. But I sit in that silence and I breathe out any emotion. So by the time I click on that Zoom call meeting, I have zero emotions. Imagine being zero emotion and totally present as a business guy. I'm not sold onto whatever you have to say. I'm not sold on what I'm totally present to hear what you have to say. Think about like as a business guy, the strategic level of planning, of execution that you have because of that practice.
And like when I'm trying to work through a transaction or get something done, that's a level up. Like you've already put yourself higher than your opponent, because a lot of conversations are made on emotion. And I can sense it now when I'm speaking with someone and they're being emotional during the conversation instead of really diving in on the importance of it.
Yep.
And then the sad part is when you're not strategically in place and your brain isn't in this clarity of, I know the vision, I know what needs to happen, and I'm just going to get there. So many people are so clogged upstairs that they're tripping over themselves trying to get to the finish line, right? Because their brain just can't just focus on one big mission. And, I've worked with Cody on that a lot. He's got so many opportunities. People give him all these options. I said, learn how to say no.
Yeah.
And slow yourself down, because you can't do 100 things, but you can do 2 or 3 real good, And it's interesting too to actually think back. When I was younger in the mortgage business, I would work late, come home, go to bed, get up at like 8, and then rush out of the house and go to work. Mm-hmm. And then, as time went on, I'm like, man, I'm full of anxiety.
It's survival.
It was just this whole thing of just like rushing everywhere I was going in life. And I'm like, this is crazy. So my business mentor said, I'm going to call you tomorrow at 5:30 in the morning. You better answer the phone.
So what you just said to me is I program my nervous system to be in anxiety every day of my life. But my conscious effort and choices on how I choose to live, I choose to be in anxiety, right? So you don't have to be in anxiety. If I say, hey, if you start your morning right, if you understand what grounding means, that means like, okay, so let's just say you're in a conversation, this guy's pissing you off. And you can feel it inside. Your emotions hasn't showed it yet.
Yeah.
And it's pissing you off. Well, my past self would act out on that emotion. I will be rude, or I'll let them know that emotion, because what comes from your heart, the mouth speaks. So the thing is this: if I feel something in my heart and I'm like, oh, I don't like this guy, right? And then that's when the whole practice of my morning routine comes into effect, because it literally changes your nervous system. So let's say this guy's pissing me off. I don't like you, right? Kind of, that's what I'm feeling in my heart. I actually catch that and I fix it before it
comes out of your mouth. Yeah. Along with that rushing from A to Z, wherever I'd go, I had no filter. I like anything that would come to my brain, I'd just say it. Even sometimes I didn't even mean it. I just was frustrated. So then now I'm speaking like this emotional dialogue to someone, and it's like, and then I walk away from that like, why did I do that?
And also, like, what are we chasing here? Like, okay, so let's say you got the car, you got the house, you got the beautiful wife, you got the first class on an airplane, you got the best resorts, right? Does that really make you happy? Because I lived it all.
I can tell you right now, it sure doesn't.
It doesn't. It doesn't make you happy at all. And there was a point where we're staying in these very luxurious hotels, nothing that I would ever experience before, and I was not present because I was stuck in my own head through the emotion because at that point of the game, I didn't know the importance of the morning yet. See, God said He renews us in the morning, and if you could tap into that energy in the morning, I mean, He talks about it. Like the morning has secrets.
I mean, my whole life changed from changing just what time I got up in the morning.
You can let go of things in the morning.
The thing is on top of that, between my two businesses, I have about 1,800 employees, right? By 8:45 every morning, I have text messages of problems, right? I don't want to wake up to that. I want to get up in the morning. I want to have my time of peace, my sauna, my cold plunge, the gym, sitting in peace, journaling, doing whatever I do that morning. And then I want to be the one to engage that business day. I want to be the person to open my computer with no pressure on my emails yet, because then I get to then dictate all the directions I need people to go during that day. And now I'm slowly entering into the world of business. It's not like, oh my God, I'm waking up to a fire every morning. That's one of the biggest values that I've found. Because if I'm up at 8:45, I have to be, or 7:30, 8, whatever it is, I'll challenge anybody right now. If you're the guy sitting behind the desk at work going, oh, I want to make more money, but I just don't see why I'm not getting raises. Or I want to be a leader at work. Don't walk in the door at 8:59 when you have to be there at 9. Don't get up a half hour before you have to be there and rush there. You have to plan to be that man. You can't just think it's going to happen. You have to make changes. And I think there's a lot of people out there that still have this entitlement feeling. And I think this generation of kids have been born into this entitlement. And I fought really hard with my kids to make them understand that that's just not acceptable.
Yeah. Yeah. We look for the easy things. And, like my college years was living in a grass hut, fighting in different war zones, living in third world countries, driving to internet cafes when it's still dial-up internet cafe to send out a term paper. My college years, it was that. And then you look at a normal person's college years, and they're partying, they're in sororities, like some of the most memorable experience of their life. And here I am, I'm trying to survive. And like, who gets the better lesson here in life? Because like, what is life about? Because we can't take any of this with us. So what is it about? What is life about? Like, to me, is what we take with us is our experience in this life. And let's say you live such a lazy life, then what experience do you have?
And what legacy did you set? I mean, that's a big thing too. What comes to mind is Caleb, my buddy.
Mm-hmm.
He went to college while he was deployed.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd have this like dome thing he'd sit in and do his paperwork. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden a gunfight would break off. So he'd go from like being in the middle of this paper. He was telling me the story the other day. It was great. He'd be like in the middle of this like thought, putting this paper together, and all of a sudden you hear gunfire. He'd go from like a student, trying to get a business degree to straight chaos.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then right when it was over, right back to the paper. And I'm sitting here going to myself, that is a real accomplishment. Mm-hmm. Like, think like that would be the school would be the last thing on my mind in a war zone. Mm-hmm. Like that just really dictates some character, mm-hmm. right? I mean, mm-hmm. It's probably someone who's at that point like really in a dark place, because I don't think it's not logical to me to even think like that.
No, so the way I thought about why would I go to college when I'm on the A team fighting a war, right? Because it's very hard, it's very difficult. Why? Because I realized that we're not going to be this forever. Like, I'm not going to be this commando forever. And I want to be more than that. And when I got out of the army, my college degree, it at least it put me in front of people. I wouldn't say like it besides my grammar got better, like the basic education on if I'm typing a paper to some kind of CEO, like, but college, it was college to me, it was like it just gave me an opportunity to come talk to this big time CEO. And then from there, it was my life experience that got me the job.
Everything else, yeah.
Huh.
So going back to childhood, it's amazing when I spoke with you for the first time in Vegas. The first thing that came to mind was my ex-father-in-law, mm-hmm. And he didn't speak English at all. So we communicated. It was amazing. He was an amazing guy. And my ex-wife would kind of explain things, through our conversation. And so I could understand in that when you were telling me this story about your childhood, the first thing I could think of was him. Mm-hmm. Because he was like really fighting the war at that time, and it was horrific. And all war is, but how did that come to be? Like, why did you guys decide that you had to leave?
So we were on, so the country of Vietnam split between the North Vietnam and South Vietnam. So North Vietnam was more of a communist ideal, and South Vietnam was more a democracy backed by, U.S. interests. So at that point, when, so back in back in 74, when I was born, if you look at the Vietnam timeline, American troops withdrew from Vietnam already. So 75, Saigon fell, April. 75. So I was only free for maybe a few months before I lost my country and freedom. And, we lived underneath communist oppression. That means imagine heavy taxes. So let's say you're a business owner and you work night and day to supply your family, yourself. They take majority of your money, taxes. So very oppressed, right? So the South Vietnamese were oppressed, and also like any person that held any position of political or military leadership were brought out to the re-education camps, and these were torture camps, right? They'll break you there.
Yeah, I was pretty familiar.
Okay.
This was.
And they murder people there.
Mm-hmm.
So my uncles, being lieutenants in the military, they were imprisoned in these education camps.
It's the same place my ex-father was.
Really?
But,
Yeah. So
my
you don't
ex-wife's
come
the-
out the same.
Yeah.
Nobody
My ex
comes
is the
out
same age as you. She's 51.
Okay.
Yeah, so she went through pretty similar.
Yeah. And then, my parents, they realized that we had no future here, and they wanted to escape. But not just them. I mean, millions of people escaped Vietnam.
Yeah.
And through my grandfather, who smuggled us out of country, so he had these gold bars. It was 12 gold bars for an adult, and these are like that size gold bars. So 12 gold bars to smuggle out an adult, and 9 gold bars for a kid. That's the life. That's the value of your life. So my grandfather, successful businessman before Saigon fell, he had gold bars literally hidden in his home, and he smuggled us out of country on a fishing boat. And the thing is, when you leave Vietnam, you had to pass the pirates that were going on at that time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all the neighboring countries that had pirates, imagine all the refugees, they're leaving with everything they have on them. This is their whole life that they're leaving on their backs. So on a fishing boat, there were so many bodies that they can throw in. Like, we didn't even have luggage. We had to wear three layers of clothing.
Mm.
And the money was sewn into our my mother's pants. It was literally survival. And when you're sitting, and when we're on the boat, we're actually sitting on the boat. We're not laying down.
Mm.
So the lower extremity of your legs is going numb.
How long were you on the boat for?
A month and a half. Because our boat broke down. So. We went past the pirates, and then the typhoon hit us.
How big was the boat?
Normally fits about 60 people.
Okay. Wow.
It was over 100 people that night on the boat trying to escape.
And I'm assuming not everyone survived that.
Not everybody survived. So we went into Malaysia. That was the first stop, right? Because Malaysia was a short trip from Vietnam to Malaysia, where it was a 2-day trip. So we actually made it to Malaysia. And then their military stopped us. And literally, they were not accepting more refugees. So they pulled our boat back out into the South China Sea.
And just let you go.
Shot the motor.
So they basically took you out there to die.
Yeah.
Oh my God. All right, kids, when your video game stops working, don't bitch.
So then, and then we're left there for dead. And my mother, she said that we drifted for nearly 30 days. So imagine, okay, so if we left Vietnam to go into Malaysia, that's a short trip, right? 2 days. And they stuffed more people on that boat than food and water, because it was a short trip, 2 days. So now that short trip has now been indefinite with no food and no water. There was hardly any food and water on there because the trip was planned for Malaysia. So now they pulled us back out into the South China Sea with no food or water.
I mean, their intention was just to let you.
Yeah, they just didn't want to deal with us. They didn't want any more refugees in their country. The refugee camps are already full. You know.
Have you had deep conversations with your parents about this, or your mom?
My mother, yeah.
Your mom? I can't imagine what her thoughts were when she could like see that island and think that you guys were now like safe and you're there, and then all of a sudden,
Definitely emotional roller coaster.
I mean, that's trauma.
Mm-hmm.
That's.
And then I mean, there was people were drinking urine. Survival, like, and a lot of some of the refugees, they were elderly people, so they health wise they couldn't have made it. So they died. And then where are you going to throw the body?
In the ocean.
Or you let it decay on the boat and everybody else gets sick. Right?
Yeah.
So that was the environment that we live in. And the reason why I want to tell you that it's really important is because that was 0 to 7 for me. So I got to America right around 7.
So you left at 3 years old.
Yeah.
Can you finish that journey?
Yeah, so I left at 3 years old. We went into Malaysia. Now they drug us back out into the South China Sea, left for dead. And my mother said we drifted. And she said a huge typhoon came through. And she said it was amazing that our boat, a wooden fishing boat didn't capsize through a typhoon. We didn't. And in fact, she said it pushed us further out into the South China Sea, where literally we were saved by a Russian supply boat.
Wow.
Tell me that's not a God story. Like,
there's no such thing as coincidences, I'll tell you that much. I don't believe in them.
And if you look at the South China Sea, how vast that ocean is.
It's insane.
And a small little boat.
Needle in a haystack.
Get pushed into the route of a supply boat.
And I mean, I think that there was probably a lot of people on that boat that God had different plans for.
100%. 100%. So we lived in, they took us to the Indonesian refugee camps.
Okay.
And we lived there for 1.5 years until we got accepted here in America. And the only reason why we got accepted to America was because my aunt married an American, and he was a Special Forces officer. He was a Green Beret. And being an officer, he
had some
power, right? So he was able to expedite our paperwork. When I say expedite, we 1.5 years in the refugee camps. In the refugee camps, it's a plot of land in the jungle and grass huts. Like literally, I was sleeping on a dirt floor when I was 5 years old. When a normal 5-year-old has a bed,
yeah,
I was sleeping on the dirt floor with the rats.
And you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. My ex-wife remembers the
because the more trauma, and what I learned is like the more trauma that you have as a child, that brings up those memories. Like it's hard for the body to forget that.
Yeah, I mean it is amazing how the devil works. You forget all these beautiful things that might have happened to you, but like those traumas just they sit in you, like and they sit in you until they're addressed, and you get a little bit of that relief. I think
But the whole thing is like, how do you even address it? Like how do you address trauma at that level? Like you don't even remember what happened to you at 3 years old. Like I don't recall being on a boat at 3 years old, right? And how do you get back there?
Yeah,
And okay, hypnosis.
Yeah.
Psychologist has done it. But I went back there when I went to psychedelics. Literally, I felt the 3-year-old child in me.
You said that you died like 3 times from those journeys, or you?
Oh, toad venom. So toad venom is it's 5-MeO DMT. So we only produce this amount of DMT in a moment of birth and a moment of death. So there's this toad, right, that lives in Arizona. and literally he lives underneath the ground. And the natives, for thousands of years, these natives have gone out to this toad ground, and the toad would come up in the morning to eat, and then it'll bury itself underneath the ground again, right? So the natives would have a piece of glass, and they'll come up to the toad in the morning when the toad's like, there for breakfast, and they'll piss the toad off, and the toad will shoot one of the most poisonous venom in the world into this glass. It's one of the most poisonous toad in the world. And then the indige, they'll take these glass and they'll lay it out in the sun. It'll dry in the sun, the poison.
Okay.
And they'll flake that poison into a crack pipe, and you smoke it. So you're smoking poison. One of the most poisonous toad in the world, you're smoking that.
Have you done a lot of research behind that?
Yeah.
Can I ask you? We'll probably
Why?
never know. No, what I want to know is what dude got up and was like, "Hey man, that frog over there looks like it's gonna get me high as fuck. Like I'm gonna take this glass." Like just think about that whole process. Like,
Well, okay. So I'm a Green Beret. So I've been to these native countries, and I live with natives that have literally a medicine man in their tribe.
uh-huh.
Okay. So some of these psychedelics that I will show you. Okay. So one of the psychedelics was from the iboga root. So the iboga root is called the tree of life. It's in Africa. It's indigenous to Africa.
Okay.
So let's rewind back 2,000 plus years ago, hunter-gatherers.
Mm.
These hunters shot this porcupine. And the story goes they took the porcupine back to the tribe to feast, and they're hunter-gatherer society, so they share the food, right?
Yeah.
So the story goes that they passed out and saw God, these natives. So the next morning they ran to the medicine man and they say, "Hey, we ate the porcupine and we passed out and saw God." So the medicine man said, "Quickly bring me back to where you shot the porcupine." So they brought him back, and then the trackers dug up where this porcupine was eating from the root of this iboga tree, and the tree is literally the tree of knowledge.
Mm.
So here I am staying in Mexico, and they crushed that root into a capsule, and depending on your body weight, you're going to take the capsule. Mine was 6 capsules.
Mm-hmm.
And then you journey into whatever. That was a 16-hour journey. The toad venom is more of a 24 minute journey because DMT is quick.
What's more intense?
Yeah, the toad, because you die. So when you take the toad, you'll come in and out of this, I would say, this consciousness to another consciousness, and you're in and out. And there was a light that came through, and you either surrender to it or you don't. So 2 of the Navy guys that didn't surrender to it, they screamed for their life crawling across the lawn. I surrendered to it.
Did you know to do that?
At that point, I was such in misery, like in my own anxieties, that I just didn't care if I died or not from it.
So when it approaches you, like,
You breathe into it.
okay, that was my question. You just
So
like
imagine if this is your last day, your last breath, you're laying in your deathbed, and death is setting in. All of us is going to face this, every single one of us. Death is setting in, it's coming. You're going to fight it? And, some people do, right? Some people have fought death before and they still die, right? Or you die by surrendering. So with the toad, so each one of these toad venoms or psychedelics is a wisdom, is a teacher. It teaches you. So what did the toe teach me? It taught me about death, definitely, right? But it also taught me about surrender. Like, dude, like, you're going to have to surrender to God one day anyways. I don't care. Like, okay, you're still young and you think you got your health. All of us are going to be that old man or old lady that dies in their bed one day. So what are you going to do in that last breath? You know, and do you fight to hold on to this temporary thing we call a world? This is all temporary. Or you go back to the eternal.
What's your thought process on being at war and that same practice of dying, of of the enemy, shooting the enemy and seeing that person, moving on or not moving on? Like what the life that you just painted was a life of being 80 years old, 90 years old, having your family around you, transitioning on in a beautiful way, I call it, right? Because there's better ways to die than others, right? There's as you know better than anybody in this room right now, when you were very active and you were fighting in these long battles for a long period of time, did you have a different view on death than you do now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, every one of my teammates probably tell you the same thing. You accept death. Death is already there. You accept it. It's just a matter of time. Death's going to happen. Death's going to happen to you. You're going to die one day. But did you accept it yet? No. Right? It's so far off your radar right now.
But I talk about it though.
But
with
in
Mel,
a life of game and death, when you're killing a human being, literally at this range, with a high power rifle, right? Like, what's that? What is that? Like when you take a person's life, back then, there was nothing tied to it. You're dead. I don't care. Now, it's different, right? Because now I have God. But I also feel like, the warrior path is really difficult because you're walking that fine line. You are doing God's work, because I am a warrior of God. There's a difference. There's guys that I call them barbarians, and there's the warriors. Warriors live with some kind of ethics and code, values. Barbarians, think about the barbarians back in the day. They rape, pillage, take. They're nomads. They never own anything. But a warrior's grounded, right? So for me, it was like I saw the barbarians on the team, and I saw the warriors on the team.
And then the enemy was pretty barbaric in most cases.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're killing kids, I think that's pretty barbaric, right? Or if you're
raping kids, killing kids, pillaging villages, making people starve to death,
burning women's eyes out, because they're reading Western literature.
It's even hard to fathom, What was the transition into the military? Why did you decide to go that route?
Oh, it was already guided from day one from God, like seriously, like, okay, so I say that. Let's put together the puzzles. Why I say that. First, my aunt married an American Special Forces Green Beret who expedited the paperwork for us to get to America. My mother divorced my biological father and remarried to an American Special Forces Green Beret. He was my stepfather.
Oh, that's awesome.
All my neighbors were Green Berets from the Vietnam era. So I grew up to those war stories.
Where was your biological father?
Where is he?
Yeah, or at that time, was he in the States as well?
Yeah. I didn't really know him that well because my parents divorced when I was very young. So that's another trauma, divorce at a young age for kids. Like, divorce is going to happen. It's today's Western society, And when you have a child that hasn't developed their mind, they're seeing their parents divorce. Like what's that do to them?
They think it's their fault.
But also, what's that do to them
Growth.
behavior-wise as they're adult?
And growth,
Because
yeah.
we act out a lot on our program behaviors, right? So let's just say, okay, program behavior is, wow, my parents divorced, I don't have a dad. What's that do? Okay, so abandonment, insecurity, right? You never feel like you belong, isolation, like all these trigger from that one little incident, unless you crush it, which as a child, we don't know anything.
Tools.
Even as an adult, we don't know how to let go, right? That's why we have so much mental health issues in America. We don't know how to let go.
I had a scenario. So I dealt with a lot of abandonment, and it was I was away at a ski academy. Got a phone call one day. My father's gone. Took everything from the house. My mother's by herself. He left his mother with us and took off on everybody. And he was like my hero, right? And then things got really bad when I was away at the ski academy. He had substance abuse issues and mental health issues, and that carried me for a long period of time until I did a lot of work around it. Like I dove into that really, really hard to understand, but it ended up with him actually committing suicide, and that's another topic. But with my daughter, I'll tell you how precious a child's brain is. My daughter from the age of 2 months until the age of 3.5, 4, she had a nanny who was essentially living at our house, helping us out tremendously. Fantastic. And she meets this kid who had some money and didn't want her working and just disappeared. Never saying goodbye to my daughter, never telling him that she was going to stop by and see her again, just disappeared. She was 4 to 5 hours a day in her life every day. My daughter cried and still cries to this day over that one situation. And unfortunately, due to the way her brain is developed as a 6-year-old, no matter how much you try to explain to her the scenario, she's not ready. She's not programmed for it yet.
It's the program,
right? And the other side too is I think we, as parents, as people, misjudge that a lot. Oh, they're young; they're not going to remember it, right? I had someone say to me the other day, statistically and through science, kids don't really feel attachment to people until they're about 8 months old, 10 months old. I think there's an attachment when you're in the womb. I mean, I can't, for me to even think of, like, that doesn't even make any sense to me. Maybe it's scientifically proven, but for me really looking at having 3 children and understanding that whole growth process has been eye-opening for me. And, the position I'm in now with my family, divorce isn't even an option.
Yeah, but divorce it's a first option for people in today. Like for a lot of people in today's Western world, divorce is the first option. Like, I don't like you. I'm getting divorced, right? Like that's so right. But the thing is this: don't you equate that to like, my attention span is like this big because I flick through reels like every fucking day. So then now you're
the ripple
married.
effect.
Now you're married, right? Where you now it's about the relationship and the communication. Where you don't have that attention span because you never trained you train your body to be something else. Right, so that's why I feel like for me, when I was this commando, look, I was very physically fit. I was very into shooting, skydiving. But what's that do to your nervous system? So if I say to you, I'm like, okay, what's important to you? Well, what's important to me is I want to live a life of peace. I want to, I want to be joy. I want to be fulfilled for everything I've done. Okay. Majority of the successful people they don't have that.
No,
right?
not even close.
Right? People think like, okay, well, this guy got money. He's driving around a Porsche. No, that guy's miserable. He wants to wrap that car around the next tree
I've been
around the
there.
corner. Seriously, because happiness takes work, and actually, it takes work in the way of reprogramming your nervous system. Because all through your life, you program your nervous system to be what? Survival. You know, I care about what my dad thinks of me. Oh, he put me down. Oh, that destroyed my whole life.
Yeah.
Your daughter, he left me. He destroyed my whole life. Literally, she's letting him destroy her whole life, her good years, because you can't get over that, right? And that's why it's so important. It's like the war is here. The war's in your mind. So why not dedicate the first literally minutes of your day fighting that war in your mind? Because by the time your duty day hits, you're grounded, you're straight.
Yeah, I mean that definitely is going to be a challenge for a lot of people. I
Is rewiring the way you renewing the mind, right? Like,
but if
literally.
you're not happy, it's worth it. Like, get after it.
Okay,
there's
so let's just say you're not happy. Okay. Let's say a broke ass, out of shape, not even a relationship, no really good career, and he's really bad off mentally. Where does he start?
I mean, he's going to start somewhere. He's got to do something.
Okay.
I mean,
survival, right? So he has to
survival.
start with survival. Okay, at least get some food in you, right? So then where we start? Like, it has to start within. You got to want it more. You have to want to be more. Like, okay, so let's say there's a successful man. You take your son, and he has no desire to do what you do. He has no drive, no desire, because you didn't train him to be that.
Okay.
You gave him everything. You think you can motivate him to take the company? You see him saying you never trained him to be that. So if I'm saying to you, if you're living in anxieties and in pain and in stress, and I can tell you to retrain your mind to live in a whole different reality. Albert Einstein said that, right? You can live hostile to this universe, right? This universe can be hostile to you. Like, you can train yourself to live in a positive state. Okay, so that's where it went in the beginning for me in healing. I went down the very Confucius Buddha route of chakra clearing, energy clearing, being totally aware of what's in my thoughts and releasing it when it doesn't serve me. That's the very Buddhist and Confucius,
Yep.
Lao Tzu, Taoism. So I went down that route for 9 years through plant-based medicine, and look, there was good teachings there. Like, Buddha teaches you compassion, be kind to one another. Like, that's legit. Right? He teaches oneness and, living in harmony with the universe. That's legit. But the one thing he was missing was at my 9th year was we can't do it. We can't do it in our own human strength. Like, like Jesus literally died for this 2,000 years ago. So when he saved me, that's what brought the peace, because I never had that. No matter how hard I tried into Confucius, Buddha, Zen, meditation, you name it, yoga, hot sauna, cold plunge, psychedelics. I mean, you name it. I did it all, and I never found it. I never found peace.
That's powerful.
Until I found Jesus.
Well, with your accomplishments and growth, I think people should take that pretty seriously.
You know what my biggest accomplishment these days are? Is standing in front of a large group and talking my truth and hopefully bringing others to Christ. That's what I look forward to. Being that teacher, that warrior that steps up in front of a crowd of SWAT operators, because I know what it means to serve something higher than yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what brings me joy, and spending time with my wife. Like, these are the things that bring me joy beyond Oh, I'm going to get a G-Wagon.
Those materialistic things are the enemy, man. They put me in a place of
It's nice to play, like, like to be successful. Like, seriously, I like to play. Like, I like to play the game. I'm a hustler, right? I
yeah.
like to hustle. I like that game. I like marketing. I like, okay, you're a business. I'm a business owner. Watch me whip you in this arena right here. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I didn't, I wouldn't have been a name in the tactical industry.
No, no, that's right. So, with having an uncle and a stepdad that were Green Berets as you were growing up, was there any thought in your mind to go in any direction at any point other than into the military?
Oh, well, first, Cody would like this.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
Cody would like it that I step into a Marine recruiting office before I even stepped into Army recruiting. I wanted to be, growing up, I read these books about Marine raiders in World War II. Like, I'm like, so you're telling me you get dropped off with a soft boat, so you canoe up onto an island real stealthily, like, and you just go in there and just kill a bunch of Japanese people, raid the island. I'm like, wow, I want to do that. So,
how old were you at this time?
so when I started getting really heavy into military education was 13. When I say that, is I started reading Past Battles, Gettysburg. I started reading war books about commandos and SAS and Rhodesians. Like, I was really getting into it. By the time I hit 17, I wrote my thesis on The Art of War by Sun Tzu.
Yeah, it's a good book.
Right, and how that's complied to unconventional warfare. Can you imagine a high school kid wrote a book on strategic warfare? My teacher looked at me really weird.
So you know who else had the same journey as Colton? So Colton actually went and was a Marine for 4 years or 6 years prior to going over to the Army and then a GB. But Colton has read every book on war that you could. He reads like
You find that a lot in
3 books a week.
in special operations. You find like a lot of the higher end, the higher up in the tier you get, the more intellectual you become.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's there's definitely levels to it, right? And I can we were talking about it yesterday. I can really kind of pinpoint at this point, what branch the person was in, what their job was. You know, it's even down to their job description. I can pick an 18 Delta out in like 3 seconds. A comms guy, they're a little quirky, but awesome. They're just it's just
They have a certain style, fashion that we go along on the teams. Book bags that we, certain watches we kind of favor.
yeah.
Like, so when I'm at the airport, if I have time, I'll sit, depending on where I am, especially DC area. So if I sit down, I'm like, okay, let's play a game. And I'll pick out agency guys and I'll pick out usually team guys. Their demeanor, the way they talk, a lot of times the way they talk, because they have we have a certain language that we use. We like to abbreviate a lot of words, And,
Yeah, I told you that story the other day. When I first started hanging around with you guys, I'd sit there with like my phone, like Googling these abbreviations under the table and then like saving them as notes. And then finally I got to a place with a couple of guys. I'm like, dude, can you please do me a favor? And Colton wrote me an entire outline of what everything basically meant. And I'm like, you know all this? He's like, yeah, I just wrote it from like the back of my head. I was like, he's like, my life depended on it. Of course I know it, I was like, well, that's so crazy. It's wild.
No, but I want to leave with this. I want to tell you that, what I learned after my post-military years is very empowering, and it's for all of us, not just me, right? If I'm able to tell you, okay, so I was in this shithole, right? And I was this guy that was really, far away from God and values. I was living off my ego, and that guy changed, and this is how I did it. Can you not take that template and go, okay, maybe not 3 o'clock in the morning, but I could do 5 because I get up at 6. Or a guy who gets up at noon said, okay, well, why don't I stop being such a loser and maybe do something with my life, right? Like, so that's the biggest thing that I get out of who I am these days is, God's put me on this platform where I can really talk to people. I could talk to you. I could talk to a 20-year-old. I talk to, kids at high school, elementary school. Like he's giving me that, and I feel like, that's where I am right now in my journey.
Yeah.
In service of him.
So I have 2 more quick questions for you. They're gonna have to be quick. Number 1, after going through your boot camp and then all your training and having that mentality shift, right? Because that's what that training probably does to you, if I had to imagine. And then going on your first deployment, did you snap? Was that an instant change of who Tu was before? Like, did your whole mindset change immediately? Like, when did that start to happen to where you just turned into this absolute savage?
When teammates started dying, did you know what they do to the children? What they do to women, innocent people, how they hate us, like Westerners, the degree they hate us in.
What did that do to your whole mindset?
Hate. And that's not the right answer, guys. So hate is not the right answer. So hate, okay, so when people are like, hate. So hate's a powerful energy, and we talked about this during Letting Go and Dr. David Hawkins. Hate is such a powerful energy that has a way of eventually pulling you to becoming the person you don't want to be. So let's just say, I'm in war. I hate this country, of this group of terrorists that killed my teammate. I hate you. Well, I can only do so much.
Yeah.
Right? I can only kill so much of you during my, 4-month deployment over there. And then I'm going to sit back here and hate you from back here. And then when I retire, I'm going to still hate you. Who carries on that load?
Put yourself in prison.
I do, right? Mm-hmm. And I realize that it's like, be careful who you hate. Be careful the energy you carry, especially if it's negative energy, because that negative energy will pull you away from the person you want to be.
But I also think, that there was a reason for that hate, and I also think there's a reason for the fact that men like you operate the best in high stress environments, and I think the ones that don't die. I would say as a civilian, I've dug really deep into the community and kind of understood, and the people that aren't in that mode of just completely turned on and just uber focused on the mission probably had a really hard time.
Yeah, you got to be able to, dial it in. And when we say dial it in, it's like, okay, so I go up to that breach point and I hear weapons being, picked up and rounds getting pushed into the chamber, like from an AK. Like, I can hear it. So I can go, oh shit, if I go to that door, I might get shot. Or you can go in and say, man, if I go out blazing, that'd be glorious. And I think that's majority of our mindset. I know it's really hard to kind of fathom, but a lot of us have a death wish in war. That's what makes us so badass. Like like a lot of my ex-teammates are not afraid to run up to that when other people are, because they already accepted death. Masashi Miyamoto, the Book of Five Rings, he talks about you must fight like you almost died, like you already died. So the thing is, like, that's it. That is how you win in war. And if you die, okay, you died a warrior's death.
Can you? It doesn't even have to be a gunfight. Can you just share one? I want people to understand how intense things got for you, because I think it's really important, because it shows how powerful your journey has been and how much you've overcome. Can Can you share with the audience like one really just intense situation to where it was you're just blown away? I'm sure there was a few of them, but
I mean, there's always the mass cows, you know. You know what a mass cow is? Like if a group of us got hurt, the medic decides who's going to live or die, and that medic has to make that decision who lives or die. You know, you kind of see that. You hear and you see things that come out of grown men that shouldn't. Voices, screams.
yeah.
They kind of, you know, it's forever in your soul. You know. I mean, there's not one thing, because I did a whole career of it. There was not one thing I'm like, oh yeah, that's it. It was a whole career of just compounding. Like, okay, you saw a kid with his leg missing because he stepped on a landmine. Okay, and what are you going to do about it? So, you know, we can do demining missions, right? Which we have. We've done demining missions to help out. But in the end, it's like, you can't fix everybody's problems. You got to pick, right? You got to pick and choose, just like that, you know, mass cow. You got to pick what's important.
Oof.
You know? And let's just bring that snapshot back into your life. So you got a 24-hour period. What's important in your life? Is education important? Yeah, education is important. Okay, that's an hour.
Yeah.
God important to you? Yeah, that's an hour. Relationship with your wife important? You know, so what I'm saying is that time slot quickly fills up. So whatever is important in that 24-hour needs to be done. And if you didn't write down 1 hour of hanging out on Facebook, flicking through stupid reels is important, then why are we doing it? Because, well, first analytically, it's the dopamine fixes. It's pleasure, like it is, right? So every time you flick through, you're getting that pleasure release. They compare to even cocaine, like that pleasure release in time, right? So first you lower your attention span. You have zero attention span, zero interest. You can't hold a conversation. So see how the modern day society is kind of like programming, not maybe not you, but definitely your son.
Oh yeah, I mean even text messaging. I don't even allow my if it's
So
more than a sentence, I don't even let my kids text. They have to call me.
So ask a kid what is important to you in your 24-hour period. Sleeping.
Yeah.
Right? But seriously, what's important? Because a lot of kids nowadays, they're on their iPads. They're not doing the analytical skills that we did as a child to develop us.
Outside playing, getting hurt.
Well, okay, so let's just
having
say
dirty
this.
feet.
So the younger generation special forces guys that are coming through training, it's a higher washout rate. Why?
And I is in
They can't defeat the discomfort. They don't want to be uncomfortable. Right? Because, okay, so a normal parent, do you want to put your son through training, or you want to make them the most comfortable and have things that you didn't have, right? So my stepfather put me literally through training. I had to make the bed.
yeah,
I had chores,
same in my house.
you know. So he taught me, you know, like it or not, he taught me responsibility. Yeah, I had dress code to go to school.
Yeah.
Right? I had to address him, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am. Like, that was the level of military discipline. I hated it at the time, but what did that give me? It gave me a life skill. What are majority of the parents giving their kids nowadays? An iPad?
Take this, be quiet. Yeah.
Because that becomes the babysitter. So what's that iPad do? It trains your kids, right? It trains your kids to have zero attention span, no interaction skills.
Depending on what they're watching can change the whole dynamic of their attitude too.
Oh man.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an epidemic, and I think it's getting worse.
It's getting worse because it's more of a tech world now.
So
I saw this robot in Las Vegas. you know, future healthcare is robots.
No.
It looks like human beings that are robots, and literally they take care of the elderly. Now, let me ask you this: as an old man laying in his bed in your own personal home with a nurse coming over, taking care of you, I'm going to ask you this question: would you trust a human to take care of you at your own home around your possessions, or would you trust a robot?
I hope I'm never in that situation and have to have someone else come in. But
Well,
I mean, quite frankly, the robot's probably safer, but I think the human connection is better.
okay, I like that, but also like, but I want you to think about like how many incidents did the elderly get assaulted by,
Oh, phew.
you know, in the nursing homes and stuff, right? So you know, like as a son who puts his mother in a nursing home, what would you feel more comfortable with?
Exactly.
And I hate to say it, I feel more comfortable with the
Programmed.
freaking program over the human being because I know the flaws of a human being.
My mother was on her, she was in deep trouble. She was about to pass away. They were trying to kill her during COVID.
Of course.
And I flew to Boston. They moved her over to uh, this, elderly care division. And I walked in and she's covered in shit and piss, and there was a sloppy Joe next to her bed. And my stepdad was too proud to like call me because he didn't know what to do. When I got there, I legitimately called my best friend, who is very high up in the fire department, and had her moved out immediately. And brought my chief of medicine in. They changed her meds, and 3 days later, she walked out of the hospital.
Man, I tell you because I have elderly parents too, you know now, and I tell you that puts a timeline on things,
Sure does.
right, in life.
And then you're turning into the parent.
Well, also like you know, as a child, you're like, oh man, that's old.
Yeah, I know.
That's old, right? And now you're there. You're like, oh yeah, I'm there when I said I was, you know, I'm that age.
Yeah, yeah.
But where I'm going with this is, you know, you see your parents aging. You know, that's really hard. You know what I mean? And like I said, so I have to not only my traumas from my past and my war years, I also have to, you know, think about the daily stress of just living. Like we both have Asian parents. We both have a business. You know what I mean? We both want to be the best entrepreneurs we can be. We have clients. So the thing is like that stress. What are you doing to mitigate that stress? And a lot of us, we don't know how. And we die of heart attacks. We die of strokes. You know, we're not taking care of ourselves.
When you were in, what was your experience with, because you bring up stroke, heart attack, and all this other stuff, and stress and all that stuff. When you were in, I know you're new to like the HRT world, right? The hormones. And I know that taking steroids is a very common thing inside the military because lack of sleep, cognitive function, wanting to be in the best shape that you can, wanting to be a warrior. Where a lot of guys on the team, like, or speaking for yourself, I mean, you guys were taking advantage of that angle, right? Mm-hmm. What do you think that anabolic use also added on to some of the maybe aggression and anger on the transition out of the military, even though you might have been off of it?
So I'm not very educated on hormones, right? But I tell you what we did on the teams. So literally, I'm 27 years old. 27. And
I'll tell you what's crazy. I have 23-year-olds that have never taken any anabolics that have their testosterone's below 300. For the first 8 years I owned
Oh, I get it.
It's horrible.
But I wouldn't say I was not lacking testosterone.
you
was
were
a
fine.
young barrel-chested Green Beret at 27, and we were in the Philippines. I remember we were in Zamboanga training a FID force, so a military force, and my commo guy said, "Hey, I got a contact," because he went to a bar, a Filipino bar, and he met one of the bouncers. The bouncer was pretty jacked, and he said, "You know, he put two and two together. And,
Yeah.
And he told them we're Americans, and they gave us the Filipino American price for this black market anabolic steroids. It was anabolic.
Was it oral? Was it injectable?
Double deca ballin.
Yeah,
I tried to dig into my memory.
Yeah.
So horrible stuff. Black market too. Like I don't even. And then I cut it with Winstrol. So it was.
So you're aware that drug and Winstrol together can make you lactate.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I didn't lactate.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank God.
I'm just saying you
One of my buddies lactated. So
those are two no-nos, guys, just out there.
So where I'm going with this, imagine a bunch of Green Berets going down the street in the black market, and we're getting a black grocery bag full of testosterone.
Yeah.
Right. And then we pull it out, the needles we get out of our med kit, and we shoot ourselves up. Now I got jacked. Like there was no doubt about it. So I was 27.
This is your first experience.
And I was big. So 215.
Oof.
And I leaned down in Winstrol, so very ripped and cut. So I like that.
Yeah.
And now I can run for days on it. Okay. I didn't see the side effects back then. Okay. So then I went into the Warriors, and the Warrior was hard. So I got a hold of black market testosterone in North Carolina, in Fayetteville.
Uh-huh. You can get anything there.
Yeah. And I started injecting. I got big and strong, which I needed to be in war. I had to be that. Okay. Then I got off of it so back then I was like 3 months on, then you're off. So that's how I was regulating with no estrogen blockers. It was strictly testosterone, black market. So number 27, and then at 30 I did it, and then around 37, I don't know, I just want to get jacked. So I did.
But you didn't feel any crashes?
I did.
Okay. I was going to say.
I did.
Especially with how anabolic those drugs are.
I felt, so crashes is lethargic, don't want to do anything, sex drive is low, like that kind of crash, right? No energy. So I would do the roller coaster, right? Because that's what I had. Then when I went into the Horn of Africa, I wanted to get big. I remember that. So I started doing black market testosterone there too. And then when I got out of the military, I hit a wall. So I was 40 years old. I hit a wall, no motivation. Basically, it was discipline that kind of just kept me going, but I had zero motivation.
Oh, it's so hard.
Right? But get this. I landed the role of Call of Duty Ronin. So I had to train my body. So this is when I was 45. I had to train my body to look like Ronin. So I had to get up around 210, less than 10% fat.
Oof.
Phil Heath is Mr. Olympia. So he was one of my friends. He helped me with the diet. The diet is really where it was at because I was training. So where I want to go with this is, so then I was taking testosterone then too. Mm-hmm. No estrogen blockers. None. Since my whole intake from 27, right? So I took like a heavy, because I wanted to get big for Ronin, so I took a heavy dose of testosterone. Mm-hmm. Also, at that point, I started going into a provider for
HRT?
Yeah. But the problem with this provider was that, dude, their customer service was horrible. Their education to their clientele was horrible. Like they told me, hey, only take estrogen blockers when your nipples get sensitive. Like if you're feeling, itchy, right? That's when you take it. Don't take it any other way. And then they were not big on the blood draw stuff. Mm-hmm. So as much as I did, like especially the black market testosterone, if you're taking that for a long time, your blood becomes like tar.
Oil.
Right.
That's why we call it an oil change.
So it's hard to like the heart to pump that
hemoglobin and
thicker blood.
Yeah.
So you find yourself like, out of breath. I live here in Colorado. I'm out of breath almost all the time. Which, right? We live 8,000 feet in the mountains, and the oxygen here is not that great, right?
Yeah.
So it's the inner oxygen level. Great for training, but when I started getting in thicker blood, I started noticing that, and that's recent
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I had to leave my last provider, and I went to you guys. I was introduced to you by Ray, our mutual friend, and what I know is right away, and I've only been on with you guys for about 2 months, So what I know is right away is, man, literally the customer service, but not even like a customer service, more like a friendship, right? That's what I know. Is like when I call my provider, it's a friendship, and he's always, if he's not on the phone working with somebody else, he usually gives me a call back, and I felt that. I also felt like I could talk to him at a personal level, like personal level, and so it turned out like recently, so because of you guys, I did my blood work, right? And it's very important, guys. So blood work is super important. You should do it almost every, for me and my last provider, I did it every 3 months, blood work. Um, and that goes back to like, so the blood work I was doing with the last healthcare provider, it should have showed that my blood work was getting thicker. It should have showed on the blood work, and they did not relate that to me.
Yeah, there's a few different types of providers out there. There's the ones that just want to make it easy for you,
100%, yeah.
and there's ones that want to make it harder for you, but help you long term.
Yeah.
And the ones that make it easy for you are a concern. We lose a lot of patients because we put our foot down and say we're uncomfortable with your enzymes, we're uncomfortable with your hemoglobin, hematocrit, how your organs are functioning. We need to back down the dose, and we need to add in other things. People go, oh, that's too much work, and they just go somewhere else and get it easy. But this medicine, that is, in my opinion, one of the most beautiful opportunities for people that need it, because it's a life-changing opportunity, and you have to have a regimen, and you have to be compliant, and you have to follow the rules, will 100% add years onto your life, without a doubt. And when I started in this industry, it was Harvard, Cleveland Clinic. If you take testosterone, you have a stroke and heart attack and die. Black box warning label. Oh, be scared. This, that, and the other. Well, that did a lot of things too. That killed a lot of people because they didn't take it, and massive suicides. And we talk a lot about 70% of vets that commit suicide have a deficiency in hormones, male and female, right?
And a lot of like the so close quarters battle. We're putting explosives on a door, and we're blowing it in a very confined space, that rattles our brain or our internal organs.
Endocrine system.
That constant trauma, jumping out of an airplane with, combat equipment, night vision, that adrenaline rush over and over, the flashbangs, the shooting close to each other, just that life. And what I learned was, our friend Jordan.
Yeah, he's the best.
He, 18 Delta, very smart guy. Thank you for, pairing us up. But he goes into detail and education about like, if you shoot like this anti-tank weapon, what it does to your body physically, trauma-wise.
It's amazing how far of a rabbit hole went down with that.
Yeah.
But his explanations are unbelievable.
And how that triggers estrogen, hormone changes, right? So when I got out, that was my big thing. It was like, okay, I'm dealing with the mental health thing. I'm doing energy clearing, finding my journey in faith. I'm doing all that. But and restructuring my life and purpose. But the thing is this, what was I doing about hormones? I was ejecting black market testosterone into my body, thickening my blood. Didn't really know what I was doing, right? Didn't have the health professionals behind it. You know what I mean? So I'm grateful. I'm grateful for CORE.
Thank you.
To be able to link up with you guys.
We're grateful to have you.
And also the brotherhood, right? Like,
it's an important thing for me. You know, when we sat down the first time, everyone always is like, this is such an unorthodox like meeting. And I'm like, well, yeah, I want to get to know you. You know, like he was saying before too. I mean, like the reality of it is like, why are we even talking about money? Why are we even talking about direction if we don't know if we're a good fit? Right? And I think people are just so focused on the financial side of a relationship. But it's really hard to get there if you're not on the same page.
And I'm really excited, I'm really excited, Sydney, about like this relationship. And you guys came in my life at the right time. And the reason why I say that is because, I had to leave my last provider. I just did my blood work with you guys, So, I get to share with my fans, with my followers, the transformation that's going to happen, in the next few months for me, and also sharing my journey with CORE.
Yeah.
You do a lot of things with veterans and, community, and now that I'm with CORE, I can't wait to be involved with all that.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting for me too, because every time I get to bring I call it military celebrities, military heroes, and those people have turned into my heroes because I get to really hear their path, right?
Yeah.
Like Colton's one of my heroes, Ray's one of my heroes, Cody's one of my heroes, Vince Vargas, one of my heroes, and it's because I've got to know them, and they're heroes, right? And I think over 95% of the country doesn't take the time to really understand why we get to do what we do here. And I think that comes back right down to the people that sacrifice their time and are heroes. And adding you and having you accept the opportunity is huge because, like I said last night, we learn from each other, right? And I'm really excited about tomorrow morning because I've never gone through a 2 or 3 hour positioning to change the dynamic of the morning. I feel like what I'm doing is good, but I want to get better.
Yeah, you're always trying to sharpen that blade.
So it's huge. But man, I just want to say thank you so much. You're amazing, and your wife has been so welcoming, and she came down. She's like, anything you guys want, just tell me. I'm like, well, do you have any coffee up there? She had coffee ordered in like 2 seconds. It was on, and then everything that we're doing upstairs. 2 likes this sauce. That, like, she knows she's on it. And
I want to take a moment, and talk about my wife, so, I saw my wife grow up, literally, she put herself through college, she, business degree, now she has a master's degree in business and accounting. Like, I saw her grow up, and there was a certain portion where, I'm Ronin, but she is Ronin. Like, she runs Ronin tactics. She runs the administrative, and that allows me to be who I am. It allows me to go out to communities and train and speak because I'm not bogged down on the daily administrative stuff of running. And then she does that. And, she has made her name herself in the community.
For sure.
And, like a tactical industry, like that's all men. That's all male. And she's truly like the successful female in the industry. I'm very proud of my wife, and I'm very happy you got to meet her.
Yeah. Big Mel was upstairs talking to her for like an hour and a half, and he was like, she's amazing. She's such a beautiful person. I was like, I bet she's got some teeth though, Mel. Be careful,
And she has God,
Yeah, she does. She's great. And I mean, just to be in this house, I mean, this is the most amazing.
Can you feel the energy in this house?
Yeah, you can. You can feel it right when you come in the door. It's interesting, and I really find energy as a very, very important portion of my life. Like, when I sit down and have a conversation like this with my buddy Mel upstairs, that energy that he promotes, when I walk away from any conversation with him, I have this like overwhelming feeling of just like peace.
So that's the Holy Spirit, right? And when you have the Holy Spirit and you're in a room with another person that have the Holy Spirit, you almost get this energy and peace about you because energy comes stronger when you're together, So I'm glad you had that with Mel.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. Thanks again, man. And I'm so happy to be here. So
No
good stuff, buddy. Much love. Thanks, guys.